Good morning, everyone. Today is the August 23rd, 2022, and it's our weekly SIG Node meeting. We have a few topics today to discuss. So I think Weston, Marcus, do you want to talk about the CAP?
Let's delay for another 2 weeks because Atanas is out, so I'll have to delay it. Which is why I think I had put it for later. Am I wrong? I think I had put it for September, but I don't have the docket.
So if I understand it correctly, I guess you just want to update the community about some delay because summertime, a lot of people take vacations. Is that true? So you want to update and change that to?
Yeah, we'd better update it to later because he's on Atanas is on vacation and he's part of this as well.
Sure. So if you want, we can move to the next time, like the next week, or maybe 2 weeks later.
I was aiming for September 6th, if that's possible, because I think I had tried to put that in the doc, but maybe that didn't get across.
Got it. Okay, September 6th, I can help you to move that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, John.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for the update.
Yeah, we do have some work done on this, but I wanted Thomas as part of this discussion.
Sure. Thanks. So let's move to next one. Ryan, you had on. Yeah.
Yeah, next one's mine. So I wanted to get some background from various stakeholders. We have some customers that mount varlib containers and varlib kubelet onto different disks. And the ephemeral storage that's reported by the kubelet apparently propagates the root file system instead of the varlib kubelet or varlib containers. And I was wondering what the background of the feature is for ephemeral storage and whether it makes sense to report more accurate information on those two mount points.
So my memory on this, Ryan, was that the kubelet believes the disk that varlib kubelet is mounted to is the rootfs. And it would only do tracking there. And then for container writable layers, if the container runtime had reported like a different location, the writable layer may not have been accounted. But the root of it was, not to use an overloaded term, was to just not have to support too many complex disk layout schemes.
What is the correct, should the kubelet be extended out to support more ephemeral locations, or should we only restrict it to the root partition? Because there's a lot of customers that are mounting these disks differently, and they're not getting the correct reporting from the kubelet on this.
Yeah, so I know with our mutual red hats on that sometimes customers do things because they think it might give them more protection than it may give them clarity. But I guess I'm curious if any other providers on the call might be dealing with users that might not always agree with the existing like default project posture or getting pushed to support more flexible disk layouts. Because even for Red Hat, like we say this is our layout, and then we'll run into field folks who might change it and not read our own documentation that lets Ryan have these problems, I guess. But usually there's some local reason or local policy that makes the customer think that they need to do something different than the project advocates. So any other providers on the call or maybe users who struggle with what Kubelet does today or not? I guess I'd be curious about that.
Mhm.
Derek, I also want to say that GKE, actually, that's the original, that's our assumption. So at least that time we start that design, it is to simplify problems. So that's why we did the call out, that's our assumption. And here it is how the node configure. So, but I do say that people say that, maybe Alexander, you say that we maybe want to rethink about this one. But I just want to say that's the assumption we made it back then.
Yeah. Do you have users who are trying to change your default OS configuration or pressuring you to?
Honestly, I'm the only one trying to change it once in the past. Nobody want to change. So,
Well, maybe if we can take the discussion to the issue, that'd be best. And I just wanted to raise it for awareness.
thanks, Ryan, to raise this issue. Actually, now is the time. Alexander, if you have something, can you just throw in the issue Ryan created there? I think get some attention. So we do looking forward to hear more feedback on that one. Right? That's the assumption. If the documentation makes that assumption, and that's how the node config is unclear, causes some confusing, then we fix doc. If people think about it right now, we should expand it. Kubernetes and Kubernetes, and also layout is not meet today's change. We also can discuss, but that's the good issue. We can collect those feedback.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, Ryan, do you know, I can't recall, it's been a while since I looked, do we emit any event when we see a disk layout that might not be as expected or anything?
We do not, as far as I know.
That might be useful to think about in the future. Okay, cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks. Vinay?
Yeah, hi, Don. So an update on the in-place pod vertical scaling. I did, the PR got merged for the KEP, so we should be documentation-wise and record keeping-wise, we should be good for the KEP to be targeted for V126 milestone. I also created a separate PR for the API changes. This has already been reviewed and it's not changed in a while except for rebase fixes that keep happening from time to time. If there is no objections, I'm wondering if we can look into merging this early. Then it will save me the headache of doing rebases. And then I can only focus on the mothership PR, which currently carries the scheduler and the kubelet implementation. And I did get a chance to update to work on the C group V2 implementation last weekend, and that the CI passed. I tried it out a few times on both V1 and V2 setups in GKE, deployed kube up and then deployed a cluster with multiple nodes and then tried it out. I think I want to get a couple of more rebase tries in the CI before it's like I feel fully confident about it. So, but then it can be reviewed at this point. I don't know if Mernal, Bo had initially suggested this a few changes there, and I think I took most of his suggestions. It made sense when you look at both C group V1 and V2.
I can look at the V2 changes comment when
I think that it's too early. I don't have a lot of data at this point, but I feel there might be some bugs in the C group V2 on the implementation side. Do you think there is, or do you feel it's stable?
You mean C groups V2 itself?
Yes.
Or
whether memory limits are being enforced. That's the question I have.
It should be, like, as far as, from testing, we haven't seen any issues, but if you can find a failing test case, we should open an issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I've been experimenting with a little demo setup. So there is, this is for the KubeCon, and I think our idea was to use eBPF to detect, certain workloads like this remote dev environment in a pod. In those cases, you can know ahead of time, you can know that in a deterministic way when like you're writing code inside that pod, it doesn't take much resources. But the moment you hit a make command or you want to run a bunch of tests, you immediately need more resources. So that's the idea. You can detect that event with eBPF, and you can, potentially trigger VPA or directly ask for more resources. And if it's there, we can grant it. And in that, I tried it out with V1 without this eBPF code enabled. The pod was killed as expected, and with enabled, I didn't see that happen. So I'll do a few more tests. I think my earliest chance I'll get is this coming weekend. I'll look at it and then see if
Yeah,
there's any issues.
Yeah, if we can like distill it to a specific like
Yeah.
steps that we can do that work
Yeah.
on V1 and don't work on V2, then I think we can figure out
Yeah.
if there's something that needs
Yeah,
fixing.
I think I can share my code out as well. That it's very simple Python code. Just attaches a eBPF program to log traces at exec. So it's very simple. Shouldn't be much to set it up and try it out. Okay, so yeah, thanks. Please review that. And the other question was, as I looked through implementing this, I was wondering whether this should be delegated to the CRI. We delegate the pod sandbox setup and tear down to the CRI. Why not this? This is a question for Peter, Mike. I don't know. My thoughts are very early on this, but it doesn't make sense at all. Something to think about.
So which particular aspect, like I'll have to take a look at your PR.
The thing is, right now it's like an adapter that determines which C group file to update, right? For if you're increasing memory, then in C group V2, you're writing to memory.max. If it's V1 and you're writing to memory limit bytes to update that limit. This portion of it is, I wonder if Kubernetes should be doing it at all, and there should be an API.
At the pod level?
Yes, for the pod C group level.
Okay.
And the reason we need to do this separately is because when you if you're net increasing the container resources, then you need to update the pod C group first and then increase the containers. The order in which you call the CRI for containers in the pod, increasing the pod matters in this case. So, but then doing this in Kubernetes seems kind of asymmetric or a little off when you look at it. And this doesn't have to be there right now, but before beta, definitely, but something to consider.
Yeah, so just historically, Vinay, like Kubernetes had challenges in container runtimes being pod aware, I guess. And so the kubelet like organically became the manager of pod C groups. And it also was the manager of its clause hierarchy above pod C groups, which and it had just basically delegated to the container C group to the container runtime part. We've had feedback later that was like, oh, now that we have the CRI, maybe we could have expanded the CRI to do more. I think it's worth discussing. I think it's a bigger change than we appreciate, and you basically end up having to basically defer all quality of service to the CRI, which would mean like creation of the burstable best effort, that part of the CGRUP taxonomy, the whole thing needs to go to the CRI then.
Oh, okay.
And then related to a difficulty that would come with that is then when we do out of resource handling, like the kubelet is the one that's responsible for that right now. And so
that's right.
It has to read those C group levels itself. So anyway, it's just a complicated topic when you unwind it. it really just comes down to, should kubelet do any C group management at all? And right now it just
Correct.
says kubelet does all C group management except that which is delegated, and it only is delegating the container portion.
Okay,
but-
I understand the context a little bit better now. That makes sense. I just was wondering what's the right thing to do here. But yeah, I think I see the reasons. You've been down this road before. And
yeah, we had some resources that were not even container aware, like kubelet
Yeah.
had support for huge pages before the runtime had support for huge pages.
That's okay. There is a lag in innovation. All right, that makes
Well,
sense.
not even that. Like, you had some resources that were only accounted because they were used in volumes, which is what huge pages was doing.
Yeah.
And I needed to span like the life of any container. Anyway, it just gets very complicated. So I appreciate why you're asking the question, and
Mhm.
gradual evolutions of it might make
Yeah.
sense given where we are now. It's just historically, that's why we are where we are.
Okay, we can.
Yeah, I think
certainly.
that's valid, Derek. I think because we're adding sandbox services down, down lower in the container runtimes now, I think it's probably valid to readdress that, or at least after we've got support for it at a pod level.
Are you doing anything, Mike, at like the host level to have like differentiated quality of services among those sandboxes? Because like that's a big issue that the kubelet's doing there.
Exactly, right. So we are putting a new set of services down lower for sandboxing inside of Containerd, so that we can refactor how we're doing, pod support today and containers on those pods, to the point where we should be able to support micro VMs additionally going forward. And yeah, I mean, that's going to require additional integration work with the kubelet. So
yeah,
so I think it's best to talk about how do we do that at the pod level, with some kind of sandboxing, common sandboxing service support as a quality of service that's required.
But we have a level even above pods, is my point, right? We have
Exactly.
the root C group hierarchy with segmenting guaranteed from best effort and burstable. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we have to work together. We can't just.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. I think I get a lot of context here. We can certainly take a look at. We'll go baby steps with this one.
Sounds good.
That's all I had. Thanks.
Thanks. Thanks, Willie, always. And next one is actually I put there, and Wenjun and I recently go over our CI test, because I think a year ago we have the really terrible quality and reliability issue. So then we found this CI project, sub project, and thanks the Sergey and Alala, and we achieve a lot of progress last, I think more than 1 year. And also Daniel, and I think Daniel is not here today. So, but recently, because both Sergey and Anila, they take some time off. So that's why Wenjun and I spend the time. And also there's the group of engineers, like the Wenjun's team, actually weekly still monitor those critical test jobs. So then we found several things falling apart. So that's why we want to bring this community, bring this back to the community and to get everyone's attention. Wenjun, you have the co-host. Maybe you want to talk. You want to share?
Let me share I think I saw the people are looking in this talk. Oh, okay. Let me first time to do the share in Zoom.
We can see it, but we cannot hear you.
Sorry, I don't know why my Zoom tell me that I can only either share screen or share my audio. Yeah, can anyone help me to share the screen? I think the major thing I want to call out is a few test grid are consistently failing. And maybe it's worth to look at it together to see if they are still relevant or they're already covered by another test grid, so we can do some cleanup. And if they do have some coverage, they're the only one cover some certain feature or area, then maybe we can work together to make them green back again as the next focus of the CI group. I want to hear feedback from the group, if that sounds like a good idea.
At least I want to mention that because when I poke around, there's the one swipe test job is constant of the field for last at least 2 or 3 months, what we can say. So do we have other swipe related test somewhere? And it's just, this is particularly OS image related stuff because this is kind of specialist talk about. So, or we just have to find someone to look into this one. And also there's the comment in the CI that spreadsheet keep mentioning that looks like the test infrastructure problem. So I just wondering, since people working in the CI sub project, they because many comments just say, oh, this is just missing of the artifacts. Do we brought this to the SIG test group? Because that looks like to me is the test infrastructure project. Instead of we retire of the test, that we need to fix of the test infrastructure instead like because test infrastructure problem we polish ourselves, reduce our test coverage. That's kind of got my attention, so that's why I want to brought it here.
Dawn, can I jump in? I've been trying to turn some of these tests green, ones that have an artifact which is no longer accessible from the host. I've been talking to the Kate's Infra SIG. They got me on hold because they're too busy with the upcoming release, but they're going to start trying to find a place to host required test artifacts so we can get these things to go green. I might want to call on people to help get traction if it doesn't start getting traction soon.
Cool, Brian, thanks for this update. Do we have like the one bug? Basically, it is summarize those test artifacts is missing. So then assign to the team. And so we can, at least the SIG Node community, at least the one of us, like Wenjun and myself can chasing, because those people fail, give us no signal about our quality, right? And so that's why. So at least we can working together with you and the chasing and make sure they are really address those problems. And then we
like that. I'll get the ticket. I'll put it in the agenda.
Sure.
So
that would be wonderful. Yeah. I think that's the one of the top costs for me to look at. Of course, there still have the flaky test, but the flaky test, at least there's the reasonable engineer can working on, but that is test infrastructure problem. Another, and we need to address treat that's the top priority and address. And another thing, it is just like that swab test. And I look at that swab test also, some of it's caused by that same region, test infrastructure, missing of the artifacts, but some is not. So, but the only apparently to me is just always fail. So that's why I kind of hopefully we don't have the signal for the swap, right? So this is, of course, luckily we also didn't plan to promote it. So, but make sure.
Don, I took a quick look and it looks like it's running into an SSH issue. It may be similar to things we have fixed on CoreOS earlier. So maybe, I don't know, like maybe Peter or Harshal can take a quick look and we can get back next week, like what's happening with that job.
Okay. Sure, that would be wonderful. Yeah. I also noticed that the artifacts also, some of the failure caused by that similar region. So the what Brian just mentioned, that if that fix also can fix some of those problems. Yeah. Okay, cool. I think that's all from me. And Wenjun, any other thing you want to board up here?
I think we are following on one of the category of SIG Node costs. It seems we're confirming if the coverage are already covered by other tests such as container D, and will dedupe the duplicates.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a update from my side.
Cool. Thanks. So anyway, next week or maybe the week after next week, once we have like more data, we come back to the SIG Node and report back to the community here. Yeah. I think that's all from today. Any other issue people want to board up to get everyone's attention?
I have a question about when will we do the 1.25 retro?
Maybe next week, and then we can also start some 126 planning.
That's great.
Yes, that's
Yeah. Reuven, are you around? Maybe two of us can help with that. I don't see. Okay, I see Reuven on the call. Yeah.
Brian, thanks for the update.
I can help with that. Sorry,
Yes.
it just took me some time to find the unmute button, but yeah, I can help with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Manu and Reuven on this one, and also Brian, thanks for the updates. I will put what your comments into the agenda and propose next week. We can, if we have some data, and update to the community. Yeah, and Manu the same. Thanks. That's all today.
Hi, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.